How do you tell a story of a billion people? Through an ancient art, a form of Kung Fu, whose struggle to survive mirrors China itself. After 1,500 years, has it lost its soul?
These things can't be rushed. Seems like the first step in a 1,000-mile journey. We had a black and white darkroom in the house when I was growing up. 6 kids, and that was kind of my refuge, getaway.
In his teens, Fritz Hoffman unwittingly sowed the seeds of his career.
When I was 14, a friend of mine and I, we decided to hitchhike around Washington State and British Columbia for a month. And my dad knew that I would probably just go anyway, so he wrote a letter on his letterhead that said, "My son Fritz Hoffman has my permission to hitchhike and travel, and if any medical attention would be necessary, you have my permission." My parents were very supportive of kind of a do-it-yourself approach to life.
Fritz dropped out of art school to roam America as a photographer and took work so he could buy film. But his youthful wanderlust led him even farther.
It always stuck with me that, to have a second language, that would be a really crucial thing, especially if you wanted to get the big assignments.
In 1995, Fritz chucked everything and moved to Shanghai.
Spoke to all the resident journalists who were there at the time, and they all said there were no photographers there. We had a city like the size of New York without a foreign photographer living there. Turned out to be a really good move for me. I studied Mandarin at Shanghai University for 6 hours a day for a year and a half.
Few foreign photographers since the Communist Revolution have enjoyed as much freedom as Fritz has. For 13 years, he worked in China as a photojournalist.
Social documentary is what interests me. I'm interested in people.
Now he's back on a new assignment for National Geographic magazine, to capture a portrait of modern China through the lens of an ancient tradition. The martial art known as Shaolin Kung Fu. Ancient monks devised Shaolin Kung Fu as exercises to strengthen the body and discipline the mind. Then they turned it into a form of self-defense. Movie stars Bruce Lee, Jet Li, and Jackie Chan helped make Shaolin Kung Fu world famous.
Kung Fu, the television series that I watched as a kid, and that was the first time I heard about Shaolin.
Really hit and miss. It's just so chaotic. You really have to scramble to get in position. Oh, I'm just concerned about the dust getting in my cameras. Digital, it's really pretty sensitive.
Also, we're gonna take a little break.
It's really sensitive.
Yeah.
Yeah, this assignment is well, it's a sports story in some ways, but I've got to take it beyond that.
In some ways, the struggles of Shaolin mirror the very struggles of modern China. Persecution, survival, and revival. But that image will emerge only by tracing the tortuous path of Shaolin itself. The Tago School in Hunan Province. 40,000 fists of fury. 20,000 martial artists in training.
We've come to this school because it's the largest school, 20,000. I mean, that's like having an army. It's probably pretty hard to find anything like this outside of any kind of military installation.
Shaolin Kung Fu began as a quiet practice. Practiced off stage.
It represents something that is traditional in China, but is becoming a global brand. You know, it's being packaged. It's part of this change that's happening. It's this marketing of China. For me, I'm going to try to build my narrative for the Shaolin story around the students.
The school enrolls students from all walks of life. Some aspire to become Olympic medalists or the next Jackie Chan.
Probably the best case for a lot of kids after they finish. They can get, you know, become attached to and part of these traveling troops. Many of the shows that we see in a lot of cities are performed by troops just like this.
Many will live outside the limelight as bodyguards, soldiers, or cops.
We're going into one of the dormitories for like really young preschool age students.
I know that there are some students that come there because they come from a wealthier family and they need better discipline.
Other kids come because their parents send them here, or some come because they might be orphans and no place else to go.
You got to expand your knowledge base about that story. That's just key. Because if you don't understand the history and some of that background, then it's pretty hard to know where it's going. And I really see that this is going to be a journey for me as much as it is for these students, you know, going on this Shaolin path.
手窝放的，用你的钱，用你的钱抖动你的手，再到你的手窝这儿发力。对对对。别急。你看，你是在你走的时候啊，这是练习你的手窝的，这练习说你。
Fritz sees the body of Shaolin Kung Fu, but not the soul.
It's always difficult in a big scene like this. I mean, as soon as I saw this scene, I thought, you know, here's my challenge. I've seen this before. The students participated in the opening of the Beijing Olympic Games in 2008.
A spectacle made possible only by altering the very nature of Shaolin Kung Fu.
In the traditional Shaolin, the master would teach the student, and then the student would take what the master teaches them and kind of improvise on that a little bit, make that his own. China would like this Shaolin Kung Fu. They would like this to become possibly an Olympic game or Olympic sport. The problem is that if everybody's kind of doing their own version of it, how do you judge that?
In a nation where obedience is a virtue, this mega school values conformity.
It's all being standardized through these type of schools like this. You know, it's one thing to get kind of an overview where you have patterns of people, and that's kind of cool, I guess, but I really have to kind of find something within that is a little bit special.
Fritz tries downsizing to a school 100 times smaller than Tago.
We're visiting a small school that's a bit more traditional in their practice of teaching of martial arts.
It's a boarding school. Students come to this school at any age. I think the youngest student is 4 years old and stay for several years.
Students get a regular curriculum with an emphasis on Shaolin Kung Fu.
It's really amazing to see them out every day in below freezing weather. You really feel it that they want to be out there. And, you know, they really have that dedication and drive. And I'm looking for angles that, okay, I see it a couple times and I know what happened. Do it once, do it twice. You make an attempt and then you see it and you sketch it a little bit clearer and you shoot it again and until you get the angle and get the moment.
I don't try to pre-visualize so much. You know, children, it's easy for them to be natural. They're easy to work with.
What I'm looking for is to show this, the soul, try to find the soul of Shaolin, and what is that today? I think we can see the Shaolin spirit in these students who are just so committed and dedicated to practicing this.
Spent a few days here at the school, and you know, I got a few pictures. Just looking for something a little more special. And that's got to come from me. I mean, it's a great place, and there's a lot to photograph, but I've got to dig a little deeper.
Helping Fritz dig is his local troubleshooter, his fixer.
You know, I have this great fixer. His name's Huang Yong, and you know, he's great because we know each other really well.
At Fritz's hotel, his fixer follows up a lead. A master of traditional Shaolin, living on a remote mountain.
Oh,
so what's going on up there?
He said he might or might not be up there because he's busy.
You know, as far as I can see, he's one of the older generation, so that's a good source.
Every story has obstacles. You know, one of the biggest things for any photographer is access.
Fritz is banking on meeting the master, but along the way, a chance encounter will take him one step closer to the soul of Shaolin. A Buddhist monk on a pilgrimage.
When I see something like this, I try to be very courteous. He's gonna wonder, who the heck am I? He's walked 1,000 kilometers from eastern China. He's coming back to the Shaolin Temple where he says he grew up as an orphan kid. He learned martial arts and became a Buddhist monk there. This is one of those things that you just could never predict that you would find something like this. You might call it fate. Our two paths crossed. It's really great. Love it. It's great for our story because all paths lead to the Shaolin Temple for anybody studying or practicing martial arts. You know, it's like a destination.
The temple is the Mecca of Shaolin Kung Fu. Its cradle, 1,500 years old, and birthplace of the warrior monks who defended it.
So we left the monk about 2 kilometers back, and we're waiting at the gates of the Shaolin Temple.
Over the centuries, the site itself has been ravaged and reborn. In the 1960s, during the repressive Cultural Revolution, the Buddhist temple became a target in a nation that discouraged religion. Mao Zedong's Red Guards defiled the temple and drove out the monks. After Mao's death, the temple, like the nation, sprang back.
This idea came about, let's do a movie called Shaolin Temple to try and attract tourism to the area. And they brought a Hong Kong film company in to do this story. And that's when Jet Li did, had his role in that, and it became this huge success.
But Fritz thinks the communists salvaged a shell without a soul.
The Shaolin Temple today is pretty much a tourist site.
It's funny, tourists come here to see the real thing, and here he walks right past them.
Like Fritz, the monk is on his own Shaolin quest. Fritz learns he's come to honor the master who taught him so many years ago. But the master, like the spirit of Shaolin, has moved on. So does his disciple, and with him, a precious lead in Fritz's story. Fritz's hopes lie with the Shaolin master on the remote mountain, Shizhen. Shizhen is renowned for practicing Shaolin Kung Fu the old way, far from the public eye.
It's the middle of winter, and Shizhen is usually pretty quiet and in seclusion during the winter, so I'm not sure if we'll be able to even contact him. He left the Shaolin Temple and went to the mountains to kind of start his own research center. He's been there for about 15 or 20 years, I think. He's a master, so he's important because he's probably the closest, I think, to the real thing.
Word comes that Shizhen agrees to meet.
We are pretty much at the center of China, in the Sum Mountains here. So it's a really important part of an important place in Chinese history. It's pretty dramatic, this landscape. So I really hope that we'll get some opportunity for some really beautiful pictures up there.
A few workers, a few hikers, then solitude.
You could see in this environment here that a person would have to become one with the environment, really, in order to kind of survive. The winter light is really, really nice. A bit of a haze, which kind of acts as a filter that kind of helps to create a real nice mood.
The temple has been there for years. Stone by stone, Shizhen is having it restored and expanded.
All this stone has to be carved out from the mountain, and it's pretty remarkable that one person can, starting from nothing, just really get the support to do this.
On Shizhen's mountain, a reminder that the monks of old were worshippers first, warriors second. To the faithful, Shaolin without Buddha is like a body without a heart.
Right now, I'm just kind of learning about Shizhen, his philosophies, about Shaolin culture, and his lifestyle here.
In the distant valleys, some schools teach thousands. Up here, this disciple is just one of 7. Taught by a master, who knows how to make an entrance.
A door opened behind me, and I turned around. He was coming down the stairs, and it was just a really great picture. I thought, you know, of this caped man with this hood, and he stopped. And my first instinct was to get a shot. And since we hadn't met, I decided to put the camera down. Yeah, we did. 因为这个地方真漂亮，所以肯定有一点。
春天比较好。春天。3月、4月份。
对。
Journey's end. 1,000 miles to meet one man. An individualist who defies the norms in Shaolin and in China.
我们这样站在这里，这也可以练功。这个少林的功，行站坐卧都可以练。我们这样站着也可以练功啊。我手往脚往那里放，啊，这个别人这个脚不要挨着，就轻轻的挨着地上，别人也看不出来我们在做什么。实际上我们在练一种庄功，中心在右脚上，这个别人看不到。 我们在这讲话的时候，我们就这样站着也是功，然后这个腿这很有力量，你的腿打过来，他的腿是很稳的。这个少林的功，行站坐卧都可以练。我们这样站着也可以练功啊，我手往脚往那里放，啊，把这一条腿呢变成2条腿，把2条腿的力量聚到1条腿上。这个扁腿、踢法、摔法，这些都是少林功里面一些简单的动作。
A lot of the Shaolin tradition and the Shaolin martial arts, you know, the real foundation has been disconnected from what we see today. It's just all performance, and it's great, entertaining performance, but it could be acrobatics or gymnastics even. And Shurda Jin, you really get a sense that he lives it. You know, he lives his faith.
True Shaolin is more than moves. It's a quest to unite in outer strength with an inner peace. The very quest of China itself. One man with 2 portraits, the face of China and the soul of Shaolin. Survival amid change. Living at peace. Far from the busy schools and the bustling temple.
You know, things are never what they really appear to be, you know, I mean, you go out looking for one thing and you find something else.
The wise oracle of the mountain is a figure of myth, but Fritz has found him, lighting the path for wayward disciples, and perhaps, too, for a restless nation.